Hello. So I went to the barber the other day to get a beard cut. That's sort of new to me. I've only had the beard for about a year. Um, so I go to the barber to get a beard cut, and I come back, and my kids, who were like big fans of the long beard, they just shake their heads and they go, "Now you're just a baby dwarf." Hey, my name's Dr. Asatar Bear. I'm a professor of economics and teacher of meditation. I do this class every week, Introduction to Heart Rhythm Meditation, to give you step by step instruction, how to meditate if you've never done it before, or maybe you've done other kinds of meditation, you want to learn more about this method. It's different from what is often taught and practiced. The thing that makes heart rhythm meditation a little bit different is that we put a lot of attention on the breath and on the heartbeat, on your physical heart, but also your emotional, your spiritual heart, what's called the heart chakra in the yoga tradition. Um, and we have a whole series of steps designed to really focus your breath and your energy on your heart as a path of self-discovery, of self-knowledge, of the unfoldment and development of the self. Um, so uh, I want to talk this class a little bit about what is spiritual progress and what is the nature of belief and especially the ideal. Very important. But first, I want to just have a brief session of practice of meditation so that we can try it out a little bit, and then I'll talk a little bit after that. So, of course, with this class, again, I'm here every week at this time. I encourage you to join live if you can. You'll catch the vibe in a better way. I think that way. At least that's the way it's always been for me. I learned meditation myself face to face. I've been doing it a long time. So they didn't have this kind of method of delivery back in the day. But my feeling is that a vibe's a vibe, right? Whether we're together physically or not. Um, that's still very real. Those of you who are watching this recording later on, hopefully the vibe is still there. Uh, I also want you guys to know that if you really want to learn this method, it's good to do it step by step. Like, I'm going to take you through a bunch of steps, and it might be kind of a lot to follow. I do have a course. I offer this on my Patreon page to all my patrons. Takes you through it very slowly and systematically. It gives you, videos and step-by-step instruction each day. It's a 28-day long course. So check that out on my Patreon page. The link is in the description. All right, so let's try out a session heart rhythm meditation. This is a method of meditation that comes out of Sufism, particularly the Sufism of Hazrat Inayat Khan, who was an Indian Sufi master who taught in the West, in Europe mostly, and also the United States um, in the early 20th century. So the first step, we're going to just sit up straight. We want to have an upright yet relaxed posture. All right. So, and we want it to be upright because it's more energetic. All right. But we want it to be relaxed because we want it to be not something that takes a lot of effort, right? We're trying to open and discover all of the different parts of our being. That's harder to do if you're like tense and uncomfortable, right? So upright but relaxed. Now just check on your head. Is your head going too far forward? That's kind of like what we do a lot, right? We go too far forward. So I'm often having to remind myself to just kind of, sit back a little bit. Um, I like to sit in a way that my back is not touching the back of the chair. Um, that just, feels better to me. Um, but if you like your back to be touching, then you find out what works for you, and then you close your eyes and you tune into your breath. Become aware that you're breathing, and you breathe in and let your belly expand. All right. So one of the elements here is deep breathing or diaphragmatic breathing, also called abdominal breathing. And you might want to just take a hand and place it on your belly and just feel your belly rising and falling as you breathe. Okay. Now this has a lot of benefit to it. If this is all you do of this practice, that brings a lot of benefit. It tends to, just by having your hand on your belly, it tends to bring your attention down into your body and deeper in your body. A lot of times our energy is very concentrated around our eyes and in our heads. So by putting a hand on the belly and breathing deeply, we bring our consciousness, our awareness down into our bodies, closer to our center of gravity. Now we're going to intervene a little bit more on the breathing. We're going to make the breath slower than it normally is. We do that by squeezing your abdominal muscles as you breathe out, releasing them as you breathe in, taking a bigger breath and also a slower breath than we normally do. Making the breath deep, slow, and as much as we can, making the breath full. We normally are not aware of our breath, right? Our breath, luckily, will continue whether we pay attention to it or not. So thank goodness that that exists, right? But if we pay attention to it, we are paying attention to our fundamental exchange of energy with the life or all around us. And we also have the opportunity to change our breathing and make it optimal. All right. By making our breath deep in our bellies, we are engaging the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the part of our autonomous nervous system which triggers a whole range of physiological responses: the slowing of the heart rate, the lowering of blood pressure, the release of stress fighting hormones and compounds in the body. Uh, and this is all associated with this incredible nerve called the vagus nerve. So doctors speak of what's called vagal tone, and this is the ability of the vagus nerve to activate this part of your nervous system. It's been called the relaxation response. So what we're doing here is we're just going with that, right? Making the breath conscious, making it deep, making it slow. This sends our bodies and our minds into this relaxation state. But notice we're not lying down, we're not going to sleep. That's the importance of having that upright posture. We're using that relaxed, calm focus to for self-discovery, right? To open ourselves and experience all of the different levels of being that we can. So Now we also want to tune into our heart center. So take your hand and just place it on your heart and try to feel your heart beating as you breathe. You're struggling to feel it, you can, instead of using your one hand, you can press lightly with your fingertips, or you could put two hands and just hook one around the other, and so that your fingertips here are on your wrist, and then just rest that. It's another little trick. Whether you feel your heartbeat in your chest, whether you feel it in your fingertips, in your wrist, wherever you feel it, that's all right. Right. You just want to become aware of the heartbeat. If you were aware of it before I started talking, that's great. And, different people need different things here. That's perfectly fine. Now bring your heartbeat into balance with your breath so that you have the same number of beats on the inhalation as you do on the exhalation. Now, if you can't feel the beats at all, then you just kind of imagine what they might be, all right? Your heart beats about once a second, or maybe once in a little bit less than a second, depending on your resting heart rate. You feel your heartbeat, use it, breathe the same number of beats in as you breathe out. If you're not feeling it, you just count to yourself in a rhythm that feels right. It might be right, who knows? Don't get discouraged if you're not feeling your heartbeat, or if you haven't yet reached enlightenment, if you haven't, are not having a mind-blowing experience. That's okay, right? One of our first lessons is to accept where we are now. It doesn't mean that it won't change, right? It just means this is where we're starting from. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I'm not suggesting that you all are 1,000 miles from enlightenment. Perhaps it's much closer than that. I don't know. But regardless, we accept where we are and then we take a step forward. All right. So we'll end our little session there. Oh, there's a comment I see that says Friedrich. Um, I think you're talking about, could it be Friedrich Engels, or are you talking about Nietzsche? I don't know. Um, I know I often get Santa Claus, but I mean, I would rather be mistaken for Engels, to be honest. I mean, I like Santa Claus too. All right. Well, I want to talk today about belief, about the role that plays in meditation, in spiritual progress or spiritual attainment, and especially about the discovery of the ideal. Right. Um, so, oh, it is Ingalls. All right. I like you already, Derek. That's great. All right. So, here's the thing, right? The authorities, the powers that be, they always want us to think a certain way, right? I mean, and this is connected to the nature of class society, right? Which is that in societies that have existed since recorded history, there's always a kind of small group that is in charge, right? And this group is very interested in maintaining their wealth, their power, their legitimacy, right? So, and they do that by, in part, trying to inculcate a certain way of thinking, right, among the masses, certain beliefs, right? Perhaps the belief that those in power are better, right? That they deserve to be in power, you know, um, that it's good and right and just and noble and all of this, right? Um, so there's a tremendous interest among the powerful in getting us to believe certain things, um, and this is really very against the grain of spirituality, of mysticism, of Sufism, right? Because what this is about is your own experience, right? It's about developing faith that is really unshakable, right? Now, how do you do that, right? I mean, you do that by listening to what you're told. I mean, no, right? Something something that is imposed on you that others want you to believe. Um, are you really, that? How strong is that, right? I mean, that's like, when push comes to shove. When it's a matter of life or death. I mean, we're all going to die sometime, right? What do you really believe? You know, when you are when you're pushed to really confront that, right? What is real to you on a deep level? What do you cling to? You know, I mean, it's very closely connected with, like, who are you? Um, who are you? What do you want? Uh, and where do you place your faith? I mean, these are like critical questions. If you want to understand yourself. Um, And I'm just suggesting powerful interests of the world would kind of prefer that you didn't ask those questions, because they're like, well, you just do what you're told, just work and enrich us, and don't worry too much about the big questions. Right? Um, so that's not going to work, right? I mean, that's not going to make anyone happy, right? I mean, we're here to learn about who we are. We're here to learn about life, right? So it's like, who am I? What is the nature of life beyond me? And then what is the relationship between myself and you know the whole, right? The whole of creation. However I understand that, right? However I interact with that. So okay, so we're sort of surrounded by different influences that are trying to get us to believe certain things, right? Whether that's, like, oh, we have a great system of government, or whether it's, oh, this is the God that you should worship, like this, right? um, and we know that historically these things often are like this, right? Like state power and religion, just they form an alliance, right? And a mechanism of trying to control us, right? So real mystics, and among them the Sufis, and in all traditions there's mystics, right? These people who are not satisfied with that, right? Who want a real direct experience uh, of unity, of the nature of reality itself, right? It's not mediated, it's not filtered, that's not what you read in a book or what somebody said, right? I mean, come on, right? What should they, that's not real. It's not alive. What you have experienced, what's real to you, that's alive, right? It's alive in you. uh the stuff that you're told and heard, and I mean, hearsay, right? That's like what. um all right, so um we want to build a view of the world that comes out of real experience. All right, so why am I talking so much then, right? Like, if other people saying stuff is not a good way to really develop authentic spiritual knowledge, right? Then what the hell am I going on about? Right? Should you listen to a word I say? No, of course not, right? Don't listen. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to anyone, right? Um, the the only point of it is like, well, does it resonate, right? Does it seem like maybe I've experienced something that you would like to also experience, right? Okay, well, then you listen, right? Or is what I'm saying touching on something that you have experienced, right? Okay, I'll give this fool a little more time then, right? So, what the only point of having a philosophy or discussion or whatever, speaking words at all, like from the spiritual perspective, uh, is to give ourselves a kind of a container, right? To give our minds an answer. Because if you sit there and meditate, you're naturally going to be thinking, what am I doing? Right? Why am I doing this? There's lots of things I could be doing, right? Why this? Is this working? Is anything happening? Right? It doesn't seem to be working. Am I doing it right? I mean, these are natural kinds of questions to ask. Even if you're like experienced at meditating, I mean, those questions might still come up. Um, but if you're new to it, definitely, right? Um, so this is what we're doing, right? We want to learn, right? What do we care about? What matters to us, right? What are the things that and that's where we want to go, okay? So when it comes to like, you know, spiritual experiences, right? Authentic experiences, mystical experiences, we want to go where the energy is, right? Now, y- you might think, oh, this isn't a great guide because, oh my, there's a lot of stuff going on, and there could be a lot of energy, but it's not good. It's like I'm anxious, I'm afraid, I'm annoyed, I'm angry, I'm all these things that we think of as like negative feelings. I don't want to be feeling this, right? And I mean, this is the primary reason why people stop meditating, right? Because meditation is not going to be like nice all the time, right? Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's very, very nice. Sometimes it's incredibly peaceful. Um, Sometimes it's very relaxing, fantastic, right? And sometimes it's difficult. Um, mm, uh, Gave up meditation years ago because of overthinking. Yes, I mean yeah, that happens, right? It's easy to get derailed, right? I mean, like anything that we do that's we know is good or whatever, but it's also hard to keep up. Um, Same is definitely true for meditation. Okay, so the point of concentrating, focusing on your heart, right? Now, even if you can't do all of the steps that I mentioned, right? I gave you a bunch of things to do with breathing and then, feeling the heartbeat and all this stuff, right? Even if you can't do all of that, if you can just do part of it, there is a great benefit to that, right? Because just even by doing this, right, placing your hand on your heart and breathing, even maybe you forgot all the stuff I said, right? But you got this part, right? Put this here and breathe. You are going to focus here, right? I mean, that's where your hand goes, your attention goes, right? And that's good, right? I mean, there's a reason why we do this when we're like swearing an oath or, if something moves us or, I mean, right, that there's a reason for that. Um, so we want to, in meditation, we want to focus on the stuff that matters to us, right? Um, Now, there's some confusion about this sometimes because people say like, oh, I shouldn't have desires or whatever. I shouldn't be attached. Um, so we're taking a little bit different philosophical position here, right? We're saying it is your desires that tell you something very, very important. Right? What is important to you? Um, what is important to you is that's a good way to go, right? That's a good thing to go toward. All right. So, but we want to experience the essence of that, right? We want to go deeper, always go deeper. Okay. We don't want to stay on the surface, right? That's a lot of times what happens. We're up here and, we overthinking with the monkey mind and all this stuff, right? The thoughts are going. We want to go deeper into it, right? So we're annoyed. Well, that annoyance is a kind of one of these emotions on the surface, right? What's really bothering you, right? Let's get into that. Let's embrace that feeling. Let's even turn up the intensity of it, right? You know, you know. Um, okay, so That's that's a kind of important just thing to keep in mind, right? So if you find that happening, right, you meditating and you just are kind of on the surface with these thoughts, go into them more. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's a positive or negative. Again, that's just your mind labeling things, right? We don't want just the positive. We want that where the energy is. Okay, so think about it that way, right? Doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Um, all right, so the Sufis talk about this incredibly important moment in a person's development, right? Which is to discover what they call the ideal, right? Um, and that means something which you really uplift. It's your version of your understanding of perfection. Um, so maybe that has to do with a certain kind of activity. Um, you are maybe you're trying to get good at something, and you have this idea. It might not even be like fully defined. It might be just very kind of partial, right? What would it mean for me to be really good at this activity, right? Or maybe it's a kind of vision of the world. Maybe it has more to do with relationship, right? So it could be focused on accomplishment, right? That could be kind of your ideal. Or it could be relationship, right? It could be about love, let's say, right? What is that kind of ideal love relationship like, right? Um, it could be about society, how society might be or could be, right? So, I don't want to suggest too much to you. I don't want to limit you, right? What the Sufis teach about this is that everyone has their own version of this, right? And it's totally unique to the individual, and it's even among people who have similar ones. Yours is going to be different from theirs, you know. Now, I have to say, I often see this in left circles, right? Like I'm a Marxist, communist, socialist, right? So, I deal with lots of conversations around society, and people on the left, broadly speaking, are incredibly idealistic. Um, the vision of like how things could be, right? So strong, and I celebrate, I love it, and I also recognize that there's no two people that are going to have exactly the same ideal when it comes to this, right? It's going to be different. And when you really are working on that level, um, a lot of times you tend to fixate on the differences. Um, you might have, it might be very very similar, right? But then so you're like, oh yes, I like what you're saying. Yes, yes, yes. But what about this, right? It's like we're sort of driven to like put our finger on it. Well, where do we differ? Like that. Because we each have individuality, right? And that's part of what we learn by talking to one another, right? We learn, okay, this is your way of being, this is your beliefs and your philosophy, your way of expressing yourself, et cetera, et cetera. And what's mine, right? And you kind of always want to define, right? you know um, and show that mine's different and maybe it's better, right? uh, so we naturally get into that place where we differ, right? And so very idealistic people often have this, right, this distinguish this the focusing on the distinctions, the differences between themselves and others who believe on 99% similar, right? um, and that's okay, right? That's to be expected. um, but also it's good to just recognize this is a process of development, right? uh, we don't want, again, we discover we have this belief in something, right? um, and okay, it's a little bit different from what others believe, right? And by the way, the same thing is true among religious people. It's not just lefties, socialists, or whatever, right? I mean, it's like um, anyone who has a strong ideal, a sense of idealism, there's going to be this tendency. Um, okay, so this is very, very important. All right, because right, so the Sufis say the discovery of the ideal is the discovery of the divine within yourself. Wow, right? That makes it pretty important, right? Because the thing is, the divine, the infinite, the perfect, the unlimited, right? This is one of the big goals of meditation is to experience this, right? To experience what is the nature of reality, right? The nature of reality is unity, right? It's oneness. Something that the spiritual people and mystics and Sufis and whatever have been saying forever, right? Um, and from many, many different traditions, right? Now they might have different ways of expressing this and so on, right? But that's the kind of thrust, right? The nature of life is oneness. But that's one thing to say. Okay, anybody can say that, right? But do you really mean it, right? Is that coming out of something that you actually experience? Is that real to you? Right? When push comes to shove, again, where do you place your faith, right? So, again, there's a process. There's steps to this. So we have. Maybe while I'm talking, maybe you've been thinking about what is this for me? What is my ideal? And it's not something you can just toss off, right? You might not be able to describe it in words, right? And that's fine. This stuff is not about words. I know I'm saying a lot of them, but stuff is not about words. It's about the feeling of it. Okay, so let's just try this, right? Let's try this. Let's try to focus on what is that ideal, within yourself for you, right? It's not what you've been told. It's not coming from outside. It comes from you. It's your understanding of perfection, your understanding of the unlimited comes from within your heart. Okay, so we can experience it. You know, we can by consciously focusing on that. All right. So let's do another session of practice and try this out. All right. So take your upright posture again and focus on your breath. Place one or both hands on your heart. Make your breath deep and slow and rhythmic and heart centered. Do as many of the steps as you can. If you can't remember all of them, that's okay. You want to tune into the breath. If you feel your heartbeat, bring it into balance. So, same number of beats on the inhalation as the exhalation. Perhaps that's 8 beats in and 8 beats out. Now, just imagine, right? Focus your attention on your heart. Just imagine that your heart is longing to tell you something. Right? Your heart is longing to have you explore and really understand on all levels of yourself. And that means mentally as well. I'd like you to really deeply connect and understand what is your ideal? What is this sense that things could be better, things could be different, I could be different, right? This is an energy that is not about compromising. It's not about settling. It's not about being practical. It's not about being tactical. No, no. This is a very, very pure kind of impulse, right? Very strong. It's longing, really. We could try to say, oh, let's be strategic or, compromise or whatever, all these things, right? This is your mind trying to make sense of the feeling, right? Trying to figure out what to do with it. So we don't want that right now, right? We just want to get into the feeling. Forget about what to do with it. That's secondary. That doesn't matter right now. Just open yourself to it. If you're feeling something, you just focus on that and dive into it like it's a pool of water. If you catch yourself saying that's unrealistic or that could never work or what that, any of this stuff, right? Just let that fall away, right? Use your breath to dive deeply into that feeling, that energy. Make it bigger so that it's all you are, all you feel, all that exists. All right. We'll end our session there. I don't know if you guys can see this right here on my shirt. This is an issue that I deal with. My hands are like always hot. They're always sweaty. If I put my hand on my my chest like this for a while, and I'm like in a normal temperature room, there might be a handprint later. I take it away. That's my struggle. We all have them, right? All right. So, how did this go for you guys? Did you anybody want to write me a comment in here about what did you feel? I'll share what I felt. I felt a lot of intensity, a lot of energy. You know, um, I feel it a lot. I know I use this like water metaphor, dive into this pool, and whatever. That's a lot of times not how I feel it. I feel like a like a fire, or feel consumed by it. I feel the light and heat of those feelings, really, really strong. So, you know, uh, the point of the exercise is that it can be very clarifying. It can be very, very purifying. I mean, God, how much time do we spend? How much energy do we spend? Oh, be practical and think about be real and all this stuff, right? Be realistic. Hmm. How liberating is it? Just be like, forget that, right? I'm just gonna get into this feeling. I don't have to figure out what to do with it. I don't have to figure out what the best way to, blah, blah, blah. No, no. Right? I can just be in that flow. Okay. Um, so maybe you felt that. I don't know, but that's that's one benefit here. Okay. Another thing is this can be very, very clarifying, right? Because when you awaken to this ideal, and I don't know, maybe I don't know how much you felt of it, right? Maybe you felt it a lot, maybe not. I don't know. But when you get this experience, when it becomes really strong, it's like, oh, that's what's important to me, right? That feeling. Now, of course, it's okay. How do you translate that into what you actually do, right? But this is something to think about, right? When you let yourself know what really matters to you, the next logical question is, what are you doing about it? All right. How are you spending your resources that you have, right? we all have certain resources, right? We have time, we have energy, we have money, right? I mean, maybe some of us have more money than others, right? That's a sad reality of class, in modern society, right? But okay, how are you spending the resources that you have, right? Given that you discover what's really important to you, how much time do you spend on that, right? That's a clarifying question. And that's a hard question, also, right? That's a question that a lot of times we would not like to be asked, even by ourselves, because it's a painful question. I feel this so keenly all the time, right? Because, I'm an idealistic person. I will admit it to you. There's no shame in that. But an ideal is like a burning coal that you're holding, right? This is burning you, because it has that uncompromising quality to it, right? It's like, that's your ideal. Well, you better get to work, right? You better do something about it, you know? Um, so now, of course, there's lots of ways of doing that, right? But I'm just talking about that on a kind of energy level, right? What pushes you forward? What motivates you? The ideals are very, very motivating, right? It tunes you in, it connects you to a very strong longing, right? At least that's how I feel it, right? Okay, so what we want to do is, first of all, tap into that, right? Secondly, deepen it, broaden it, make it more powerful, make it stronger, right? It's not something to flee from. This is something to embrace. It gives you tremendous energy and excitement and inspiration, right? And so the discovery of the ideal, this is a really key moment, you know. Now, what we often see is that when you discover this, it makes your life worse in a lot of ways, right? I'm going to be honest. It makes your life worse. So, guys, I never promised that meditation would uniformly make your life better. It doesn't, you know. Forget that. If you think that, no, it doesn't. It makes your life better in some ways, and it makes your life more challenging in some ways. That's just the reality, because meditation causes you to grow, and growth is difficult. There's no two ways about that. There's a part of ourselves that would like to stay the same, and there's another part of ourselves that would like to change and develop. And the part that wants to change and develop is far, far stronger. There's no question about that, right? Life pushes us to transform. Life pushes us to develop, and that's hard. So a lot of the pain that we experience in life is because of that, right? And also because, of course, life is limited, right? So that means that the things that we love and are attached to will inevitably be taken away. Uh, so, oof, that's this is a hard truth, right? Oh my God, I'm telling some hard truths right here. I mean, it's a difficult medicine to swallow, but we know this on some level, right? Um, as the Buddhists remind us, right? Life is impermanent. Um, and its limited nature means that we will experience pain. That's absolutely certain that will happen. um, so questions like, what do we do with that, right? So discovering the ideal is going to make your life harder, because you are going to be then in constant contact with, like, well, how different is the life around me from this feeling inside myself, right? How often is that perfect ideal ever realized? Answer: never, right? It's not of this world. It cannot be. So the world is limited, right? The ideal in its nature is unlimited. So, wow, what is that then, right? I'm encouraging you to get in touch with something that can never be realized. Wow, what on earth for? Uh, well, because it's the key to self knowledge, right? Uh, it's the key to really learning about yourself, right? Um, because we cannot really know ourselves in isolation, right? We cannot know ourselves. What we know about ourselves is too limited. We know okay, I have these thoughts, I've had these experiences, I have this history, I have this identity and whatever, right? Far too limited. That is us, but on the surface level. There's so much more, right? What we don't understand, we understand our limited selves, right? To some degree. We don't understand that there's a part of ourselves that's unlimited. That we're not in touch with that, right? And once get in touch with it, it blows a limited self. It just blows the doors off, Um, but we never are going to be satisfied, right? Because there's a part of ourselves that wants to grow, transform, develop, etc., and cannot do that without coming into touch with the reality of our unlimited nature, right? Um, that is a deep truth inside of each one of us. Okay. Okay. We are, in fact, connected to everything, right? That we are one with everything. That's our nature. Okay. Um, it's a nature that we've covered up. It's a part of our experience that society has no container for. Our belief structures may or may not include that, right? Um, it's again, that's a experience that is often outside of the norm, right? It's not something that our culture, um, celebrates very much or understands very much either. So, and yet it's a primary human longing, right? As primary as anything else, right? You desire to really know who you are, what you want, and what is the nature of life itself, right? Okay, so the discovery of the ideal is the first step in all that, right? And a hugely important one. Okay, so we have a way of trying to just connect, like what I'm saying philosophically, with a set of practices, right, or tactics, strategies for how to explore that, right? How to uncover that, how to open that up. Okay, you're so let's let's do a third session here. Maybe you guys never stop meditating. I don't know. Um, but let's try it again. And this time, I want you guys to think about a sacred word. Okay, so I've done this practice in classes in the past. If you missed those, that's fine. What we want here is a word which represents to you that which is sacred, right? That which means something to you. Try to connect it to this ideal that you've gotten a sense for, I hope, right, in our last session. Okay. So it might be a word like love, um, or maybe it's a word, that has a more of a religious connection. Maybe that connects you with the divine. A lot of us have baggage when it comes to religion, because religions, they can be quite abusive, right? Quite manipulative. So, everyone is different there, right? That's again, I'm not here to tell you what to believe, right? Um, I don't, that's not my role, I'm not interested in that, like I'd be, giving a church sermon or something if I wanted to do that, right? I want to tell you what to believe. I want you to find your own beliefs and really experience them deeply, right? Really explore them, really bring them to life in you. Okay. Um, so that's why I'm not telling you what to do here, right? I'm just suggesting, right? Come up with a word. It's good if that word is short, like one or two syllables. Because what we want to do here is put it on a heartbeat, all right? So that when we're feeling the heartbeat, we're repeating this word to ourselves mentally, okay? So that it feels, and you work with this and it feels like that is what your heart is saying every time it beats. Okay, so let's try this out. Again, sit up straight, Close your eyes. Place one or both hands on your chest if you like. Don't have to if it's uncomfortable, or you might try it out. Tune into your breath. Make your breath deep and slow and rhythmic and heart centered and full. If you can feel your heartbeat, then you tune into that and feel your heart beating and bring those beats into rhythm. Same number of beats on the inhalation as the exhalation. Because I was raised in Sufism, I like to use the word Allah myself. This is the Islamic word for God, Arabic word for God. That to me has a wonderful sacred flavor to it. Goes very deep. So when I'm doing that, then I'm going Allah, 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 Allah. Right? I'm not saying that. I'm just that's what it sounds like. Right? I'm putting that word on my heartbeat in groups of four. Okay. Why four? I don't know. It's just easy to keep track of mentally. Right? Two groups of four gives you 8 beats. That works for me to just keep track of without having to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can just do two groups of four and then I can maintain that same rhythm. It's a bit like learning an instrument, right? You ever done that? You ever practiced music? It's a bit like that. If all of this is a bit overwhelming and you just want to count with numbers, that's fine too. Don't worry so much about doing it right or doing it wrong. Focus on that sacred word. Whatever is sacred to you, feel your heart is saying this beautiful divine word over and over again. It's saying it with every beat. And let that come alive in you. You might notice that the nature of the ideal is itself unlimited. It is itself perfect. That is what the word actually means, right? Ideal. It means perfect. Wow. That is like that's like a north star, right? That's something that you can orient yourself by, right? I mean, with every step you take, you could be just thinking, right? Is it taking me closer or is it taking me further away? That's very powerful. Perhaps you can feel how this connects you to the one reality, the one being. Like your ideal is a certain kind of spectrum of light, right? It's like a certain color. We know that light has, it can have different frequencies, different wavelengths, right? And this affects the color that we see with our eyes. But ultimately, light is light, all right? It is all this emanation of a certain kind of energy or radiation, right? So we're like riding this beam of light that is our individual ideal, like how it strikes our hearts, right? Your heart in particular is unique, right? Your being is unique, and yet at the same time is the one. That's a paradox that goes beyond our mind's ability to hold, but it can be felt, it can be experienced in that place beyond words. All right. Well, we'll end our session there. I don't know if anyone wants to write in a comment if you're feeling that. Um, I feel like I'm not supposed to be quiet for too long because it's like a show, and it's not good to have dead air. But sometimes I get kind of carried away with the experience myself, and I'm like, what do I say to convey this? Right? I don't know. Um, mm. So I guess there's always certain things I need to include, which is um, I'm here every week. If you enjoy the if you enjoy the class, I encourage you to tune in live every week, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock. Class is about an hour. Anyone is, of course, free to enter and leave at any point. Right. Um, that's one of the benefits we have of the online environment. Right. Difficult to do if you're in a face-to-face class. um, and if you'd like to support the work that I'm doing with meditation, political economy, I encourage you to visit my Patreon page, patreon.com/Asatar Bear. Um, and if you oh, I see someone has a comment here. Wow, that's very calming. I was having trouble breathing before, and I feel like I caught my breath. Excellent. Yeah, very good. I'm glad to hear that. Um, we develop these unconscious patterns of breathing that are often very far from ideal or optimal for ourselves. So one thing you can do to sort of when you're not meditating, right, is to well you can take a deep breath. You can put your hand on your belly, right? You can slow down your breathing. You can breathe out a little bit more, breathe in more. um, if you remember to do that once or twice during the day, you can make quite a big difference. And of course, if you practice, get a session of good breathing in, um, it have a very powerful effect. Um, well, thank you all so much for joining me. Those of you who are here live, if you're watching the recording, that's good too. Remember, I'm here every week, so perhaps I'll see you again in the future. Thank you.